risks of attacking his own party. This morning, there are whispers that if he keeps this up, there could be major consequences, including one that begins with the letter I. CNN's Sarah Murray has that story. Sarah.
Well, good morning. The conversation that is increasingly playing out among top aides in the White House, among Republican lawmakers and other influential Republicans is concern. People wondering whether this president understands that if Republicans lose control of the House in 2018, he could be putting the fate of his presidency in jeopardy. Now, they look at a president who has picked a number of fights with major members of his own party. They also look at a president who doesn't have a single major legislative accomplishment under his belt at this point. And they look at the math for 2018 and say this could be a very precarious situation, not just for Republicans in the House, not just for the conservative agenda, but also for the president. They're saying that this president doesn't understand how Democrats could make his life a living hell if they are the ones who are controlling the House. They're talking about issuing subpoenas, talking about dragging President Trump's friends, family members, acquaintances up to Capitol Hill to testify, and even moving forward with articles of impeachment. Now, it's very difficult to boot a president out of office, but it's not all that difficult to turn the second half of Trump's first term into a major spectacle. The White House insists the president is keenly aware of the risks here. They say they're not taking a defeatist attitude, that they are going to fight to keep control of the House in 2018. But this just gives you an indication of how high the stakes are for the next big fight. That is tax reform. If Republicans can get something done, if they can pass something through the House and the Senate and take it to the president's desk, then Trump has a major legislative accomplishment to run on, and so do other House Republicans when they go back to their districts and have to answer to their base. Back to you guys.
All right, Sarah Murray for us. Thanks so much. Joining us now, CNN contributor Selena Zito, Eugene Scott, a political reporter for the Washington Post, and Lynn Sweet, Washington bureau chief for the Chicago Sun-Times. Lynn, I want to start with you. This impeachment talk, not the fact of impeachment, but the worries among some Republican strategists, because I've heard from a lot of Republicans concerned that the president doesn't get this, that if he keeps running down his own candidates, they could be at risk of losing the House, and then he's in real trouble. And I've heard this from people running Republican campaigns, Lynn.
Well, the big danger in having the House turn Democrat, which is a bigger challenge than having the Senate turn Democrat, is a quick refresher. Impeachment proceedings start with the House Judiciary Committee. If you have a Democratic chairman, it makes even the talk or consideration of impeachment, even the exploration of impeachment, a potential reality, where now it is not. With Republican leadership of the House, I know there might be Democrats that talk about impeachment now, it's wishful thinking. So you could start the mechanism going, even if a Democratic House Judiciary Committee never votes out articles of impeachment. They could certainly raise the specter of it, which would be at the least, a cloud hanging over the last 2 years of the Trump presidency. And if he doesn't like his legal bills piling up now, just wait.
Yeah.
Just wait.
And again, the message from those Republicans is, listen, our problems are your problems here, so don't go running us down. Selena, it's interesting. One top Republican official said, wouldn't it be ironic that Steve Bannon helped the president elected and impeached at the same time, suggesting that going after these Republican House members is counterproductive in that way. But it does get back to this basic question, Selena, we've been asking since, but even before the election, was whose party is it now? The Republican Party. Whose party is it? Is it Donald Trump's party, or is it the establishment Republican Party led by Mitch McConnell, who we'll meet with today?
Well, the Republican Party, as it stands right now in Washington, is the traditional Republican Party. I mean, you have divisions between the Freedom Caucus, which tends to be more conservative, and then the moderates and sort of everyone else. But Donald Trump is really not a Republican. He's not a Democrat. He's his own sort of disruptive figure. And I never sort of look at him as the leader of the Republican Party. That's more Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell. So the challenge right now, the Republicans' challenge has always been in the House and the Senate, is that these seats always in a president's first term traditionally lose seats. That's, there's like a brake pedal election. What I'm going to watch, as you guys have been talking about, is what happens in the primaries in the spring. Is Bannon able to primary some of these races? If I would keep an eye on Pennsylvania, because while it has 13 Republican seats out of the 18 that are in the delegation, 4 of them are open seats, and while they're held by Republicans right now, if the Democrats are able to put moderate candidates up in these races, that's where you will see the shift, and if a wave is building.
And Eugene, all of this is what makes what's going on at the White House today so crucial. The president's meeting with Mitch McConnell. They've had their problems. In fact, they've really only had problems, it seems, over the last few months. But now they have tax cuts to deal with, or tax reform, as some people like to call it. They both need to get something out of this today and over the next month.
They certainly do, and they need to prove that the tax plan they're going to put forward is going to benefit the middle class and all of these people that President Trump on the campaign told he would help. There's studies out already. I tweeted one that said about 80% of the benefits of the tax plan are expected to go to the top 1% of Americans, and that's not consistent with what the president said he would do when he got to Washington. The challenge is when you win the group of Americans making over $250,000 a year, you want to be loyal to them, especially if you're President Trump. He's got to figure out a way to be loyal to them and be loyal to the base that sent him to the White House.
Is Lindsey Graham right that if this tax cut doesn't get passed in some form or fashion, there is no Mitch McConnell anymore?
I certainly think so, because what many of the people who are on the Trump train are doing, as I think Selena mentioned, is they're putting blame on the establishment, not as much on Trump, because they believe that Trump is trying to fight these people who have made life what it is right now for these voters.
All right, big cabinet meeting today. The full cabinet is there. The first time we'll get to see the picture of the president sitting side by side, presumably with Rex Tillerson. Rex Tillerson, the Secretary of State, had this big interview with Jake Tapper yesterday. Let's recap some of the highlights of that.
I'm not going to deal with that kind of petty stuff. I mean, this is a town that seems to relish gossip, rumor, innuendo, and they feed on it.
You have a cattle ranch. You don't want to say anything about the senator suggesting you've been gelded before the world, and that's not anything that bothers you?
I checked. I'm fully intact.
All of America laughed with Jake along there. Selena, he was responding at the beginning to the reports that he called the president a moron. He refused to deny them, but he did confirm that he's still fully intact. How do you think the president viewed that interview and viewed how Rex Tillerson is now handling, trying to soft pedal through this briar patch?
I suspect that the president probably viewed that interview favorably. He didn't respond to the accusations and the rumors that Tillerson had called the president a moron. And I suspect throughout history there have been plenty of cabinet members that have called their presidents that they've served under names. It's just that this White House is like a fire hose and a colander when it comes to leaks, right?
Right.
And so looking at that, I think he danced around it effectively. He came out strong on the points that he wanted to make, and he was able to dance around the ones that he didn't want to answer.
Dance around, to say the least. Lynn, it's going to be an interesting look at this table, because not just sitting, it won't just be the Secretary of State, it'll be the Attorney General, who the president had a back and forth with over the summer, calling him beleaguered. There'll be an empty seat for Tom Price, the Health and Human Services Secretary, who had to quit because of the travel issues right now. What do you think the cabinet wants out of this going forward? What's their disposition?
Well, I would think what the cabinet would want today is to get the meeting over as fast as possible and get out of there without having anything backfire on them, without anyone saying anything, causing a Twitter storm. But what they need to get out of it, if possible, is maybe more of a coherent set of strategies as how they could map out legislative victories for the Trump agenda in Congress, of which he has no significant major agenda items right now. Now, even kicking the Iran nuclear deal to Congress, which President Trump did last week, puts a big divisive issue on the plate of Congress, which already is struggling with matters that touch on several cabinet agencies, including what to do with Dreamers. So I think, John, they have a lot on their plate, and maybe in a meeting they could figure out a way where they could work together where they overlap, where they have stuff in common, what agencies do, and figure out a way to win more Republican friends in Congress so they could get their they have a majority, but they don't yet have a governing majority.
All right, Selena, Eugene, Lynn, thanks so much. How's the president preparing for this meeting, by the way? He just tweeted about Hillary Clinton. So that tells you where his mind is this morning. Thanks so much, guys. Great to have you with us.
Thank you.